Be joining us any second.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Diary of a Cocaine Addict. I am Sarah Ibrahim. I am your host. I am the inspiration queen. And today's show, hello, Mike, how are you? Welcome to the show. So, I was just introducing the show. I am Sarah. I'm your host. I am the inspiration queen. And this is a weekly show that goes out to provide hope and inspiration and encouragement and resources and content that is going to help people to move the needle in their own lives from a place where they are maybe in a state of destitution or despondency or stuck in a cycle of addiction into a place where they not only believe that it's possible but they actually start doing it, right? And so over the course of this year I've interviewed many people because I really want to provide a holistic view of recovery. And what I mean by that is that there is just not one way to recover. I just don't believe that any way is particularly the right way, aside from the way that is right for you, right? Your recovery might look different from mine, and mine will look different from the next person's. And that is okay. All right. I just want to really encourage you today to, if you've maybe tried recovery before and it's not worked for you for whatever reason, don't give up. Okay, don't give up. Try a different approach, try a different way, stay dialed into this show, find other leaders and motivational speakers that talk around addiction and stuff on YouTube, on Facebook. There's loads of us out there. And I'm joined by a very special, very inspiring guest today, actually, who also is somebody that you want to keep an eye on. So without further ado, Mike Strange, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sarah, and I hope you can hear me.
I absolutely can hear
you. Didn't do all these test kind of things before this.
Don't worry, we're here. We can hear you. It's all good. So, Mike, oh my gosh, such a privilege to welcome you to the show, because I know you've got quite an incredible story. So, do you want to first of all just introduce yourself to our listeners today? Let us know who you are, where you're from, etc.
Yeah, cool. Well, my name is Mike Strange, and believe me, it is strange but true. And I have a coaching business, Mike Strange Coaching. On TikTok, I'm at Strange But Sober, with quite a bit of content there, and it's all around sober coaching. Alcohol was was kind of my poison. It is a poison. Cocaine played a big part in that journey as well, like I would imagine it had for many people suffering with their relationship with alcohol, and vice versa. My background really is I'm actually South African. You can tell by the accent, although I've been living in the UK since '94, so a hell of a long time.
Yes.
And my background is actually a big part of my life was sports management. I was very privileged and very lucky to be part of a company where, we had offices around the world, and, we represented sort of high profile sort of sportsmen and sportswomen, players, coaches from around the world. So it was a blast. It was absolutely awesome. And unfortunately, alcohol took its toll. Whilst I was in that world of sports and that, I also opened up my own independent business in Surrey. And, subsequently had another two businesses alongside so from an entrepreneurial point of view, I've done quite a lot, achieved a lot, certainly in my 5.5 years of sobriety. But, alcohol took its toll. It's a progressive illness. It was absolutely awful. It stole so much from me, from the potential where I possibly could have been, at the time. So, I found myself in rehab after a lot of searching, curious, trying different things like a lot of us have. And I found myself in rehab just over 5.5 years ago, which was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And what I did do in rehab, I listened, I learned, I came out of there, and I've worked very hard in the last 5.5 years in my sobriety. And amazing things have happened, and there's no surprises in sobriety. My businesses, my coaching business, are all going well, and life is good. It can happen, and things do get better.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty passionate about, as you hopefully can possibly hear, I'm pretty passionate about now and what is my next journey. My big part of my journey is really helping others, helping other people who are struggling.
Yeah.
I know that pain. I was there. That it's just deep. It's dark. It's absolutely freaking awful.
Yeah.
So, but there is hope, and for me, it's just sharing that hope and helping others just to get through the other side. It does get better. These things do pass, and it's not all a bed of roses, but and I'm a real one for positive thinking. That projecting the whole positiveness. Because we can get fixated on the causes and the issues and things like that. So hopefully without boring you, that's a little intro onto where I'm at, really.
No, Mike, there was so much in there that made me want to say something. So I've almost bit my tongue clean off, actually, not interrupting you. So I hope you appreciate that. So let's start with the fact that you just kind of dropped in there very casually that you were, performing at a very high level in terms of your career, just be supporting world-class rugby players and coaches. I mean, this is not a small feat, is it? Tell us more about that.
I know in the website and that are going to change, a big part of it was rugby, but we evolved as a business. We grew that business, two of us, to become quite a big international business where we were very big in football and cricket and rugby. We evolved the business, we sold it, and we stayed within the company and the group. We got listed on the AIM Stock Exchange, and then we supplied other businesses. So we were very big in events and sponsorship, and we used to run the Professional Cricket Association's awards dinner every year, the Football Association awards dinners every year. We put on the supporters villages, the Rugby World Cups. We managed the British Lions tour for the last sort of four years that we're doing. So it was more about, and it was just being in that world of entertainment as sport. Rugby was where it started, and it continued, but there was a lot more to it than that. So very exciting and very, very high profile. And I was a high functioning alcoholic. I did it well.
So that was my next question. How did alcohol fit into that? I mean, with you talking about events and so on, I mean, I'm assuming that, alcohol featured heavily at these events, as they often do, don't they, at these big high profile events. But, what was your journey? What was your relationship with alcohol at that time? What did that look like? How were you functioning in that environment?
I think from my early days, I always was just a bit different. I did things large, go home. And that was very my drinking. I was just very good at what I did in a lot of things. But, in hindsight, I look back and alcohol was just everything around my life was planned. And that was family holidays, my, the work, that environment actually suited my, I traveled the world. I was, I flew around a lot. I could hide away from certain things, and I would just do what I needed to do. If we were at an event, or, if I was traveling to Ireland or Paris or wherever, I would go and do my meetings and go and just have a couple of drinks, a couple of beers. But I would then find myself in a sleazy bar just with me, myself, and some other loser, and just get absolutely hammered, and more likely or not, I'd get back to the hotel and, I'd end up taking, a large glass of red wine to the room because, I'd convinced myself that it might help me sleep better. So, it wasn't normal, but that was how it was for me. And that's how I coped. I just did things, and for many years, I never had breakfast meetings because I was actually that petrified that I wouldn't be able to actually hold the coffee cup for the shakes.
Wow.
And that's not normal, but it just that's how it was, and I got through that. There's many times, I was in Paris one day where I did a big signing at a very big club, and the president of the club owned this, I don't know, one of the nicest hotels in Paris with a 5-star Michelin restaurant inside it. And
Wow.
me and the player had gone to Paris, and the night before got freaking hammered. The next day I remember running around the hotel at about 10:30 in the morning to find a bar that I could just have a few shots just to take the edge off, because I was that petrified. We had booked a lunch with the presidents, the coach, all his cronies in this Michelin star restaurant where you had to go through, I think it was 9 or 11 courses, on fine wining and dining. And there's
Goodness
me
me.
just trying to have a few shots because I was petrified
Yeah.
of not being able to get that glass from the table to my mouth without shaking and spilling. And it's an awful feeling, and this is the height of my career. And it was a lot of dodging and ducking and diving, and then the family consequences, and just the consequences just get worse and got worse. It's something that's progressive. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah. So I understand that you have actually a very supportive family, namely, especially your wife.
Yeah.
Okay? Which makes an incredible difference, doesn't it, in recovery, when you're just trying to pick up the pieces of your shattered life, to have people by your side that are going to walk that journey with you and be there for you and love you no matter what. It's invaluable, right?
Yeah, it's so valuable, and it was actually our 29th wedding anniversary on Sunday.
Wow.
Quite a milestone. I've got 3 wonderful kids. But the just what I put her through, it was unbelievable. I lost one of my businesses in rehab. Literally had to give it away. So whilst I was living the dream in rehab for 5 weeks, she was putting out a lot of fires and dealing with so much, And I often say to people, one forgets how selfish we were and how deceitful we were in our addiction.
Yes.
And we've got to have patience with those loved ones around us, because it just takes time to earn that trust back.
Yeah.
One gets into this euphoria of you sober or you clean for a month and everybody's your best friend. It's all going to be fine. It's not. It takes time for your friends and family to not fear you going out and picking up or using again.
Yeah.
That thought, is he going to pick up? Is he going to drink? Is he? Yeah. It takes time and takes patience,
I'm still very much living that myself. I'm now 18 months clean from cocaine addiction, and I'm sure that my mum still worries. I came home late one day, I think about a month ago. I was an hour late coming home from what I said I was going to be. And it was like, one night out that I've been on in 4 years. And straight away, it was all the old anxieties, the old insecurities that surfaced. And I was just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? It's just an hour. You haven't been doing anything different. You're still sat in the same chair. Like, what's your beef? And she was just like, you don't understand. The trust is a real massive piece here. And I'm like, what's your problem? But now I can look at it and go, oh my goodness, of course it was going to trigger all of the like, well, is she even going to come home? Like, is she okay? Has she gone out on a massive bender? Like, of course it was going to trigger that. But I, in my little Sarah bubble, wasn't thinking about that. And so you're absolutely right that we need to be aware of this. But I want to ask you, Mike, because you spoke about, how much your wife has been through, especially, and, others in your life. How did you go about forgiving yourself for the person that you have been?
One thing that really helped me, and I know this not for everybody, and like you, the coaching and the program, I think we got the same company, Recovery Coaching Academy.
Yes.
And CCAR, and which I love, because it's really about, there's many pathways to recovery. One shoe doesn't fit all. So in my coaching, it's about identifying with someone what will work best for you. What is the right pathway that will get you to where we need you to get to?
Correct.
The goal. For me at the particular time, when I was in rehab, I got introduced to, in those days, there wasn't Facebook. There were, I don't know if there was, but we weren't blessed with so much out there now. This alcohol-free movement is booming. But, so I got introduced to AA. So I embraced the AA at the beginning of my journey, and it was just wonderful for me. Those kind of 12 steps they talk about and things. And I listened. I had a temporary sponsor, and it gave me a wonderful platform to begin my sober journey,
That's awesome.
and the forgiving myself, I just had to accept. I had to accept what had happened. I had to sort of kind of ask for and just apologize in a roundabout way to just certain people that were important to me, and just acknowledge what I had done.
Yeah.
And, all I could do was just, apologize. But for me, it was just, I had to do a lot of work to build that trust back. And over time, I earned that trust back, and I kind of earned the apology, because hopefully the people around me can see, wow, that we're on a wonderful journey now. And they're a part of it, as well as they stood by me in that part of towards the end of that journey that I was on.
And so on the back of that question, the next natural question to my mind is, how did you learn to trust yourself? Like, it's easy to see how we've broken the trust with other people, but how did you get to a point where you knew that you was going to be able to go out and not fall off the wagon, or, to be able to be unsupervised, shall we say, even by yourself? How did you get to that point?
I think, it's, I did a TikTok about that the other day, actually.
Okay.
And it was, there's just a couple of key things. And this is stuff I worked on very hard. One, acceptance, the honesty and commitment, and there's a lot of fear around stuff as well. But I think that the acceptance is absolutely crucial. It just must be 5.5, or just over 5.5 years ago. I had a relapse. I did the rehab, and I came out of that, and I was a month sober, and I thought, this is amazing. I felt so good. And I went to Budapest for a weekend, and I shouldn't have done it. My temporary sponsor, but I get dental work done in Budapest. It's cheap, and I love Budapest. And I remember being there. It was a spring, and I thought, nobody's around, and I can just I'll have that 1 or 2 drinks. Well, 3 days of absolute freaking carnage. It was like I transport myself straight back to where I was 6 months ago. So that, and I had to fly back, and my poor wife had to fetch me from Gatwick, and it was just the remorse. It was absolutely awful, and that next day I actually just went to an AA meeting, and I've never drunk since that day. And that was fine, because I just finally accepted, and that's when the work started, and I worked just very hard at just doing the right thing, doing small things, just doing stuff, the next right thing to keep me, just to keep me sober and enjoy life in sobriety.
Thank you for sharing that, Mike. I think it's just so important to, I heard a quote the other day. Someone said, it doesn't matter how far you drive, the ditch is never any further away. And I think for us in recovery, that's a really important thing to remember. And this isn't saying like, you're never going to get away from it, you're never going to escape your addiction. But what it is saying is, don't get complacent, remain vigilant. Like, recovery requires active participation, active commitment every single day. You can't just kind of do it passively. Like, the moment you take your eye off the ball is when these, sabotages come in whatever form that might look like for you. And so I think that's a really important point, Mike. So thank you for sharing that.
I agree. And it's almost like knowing your enemy. Knowing, cocaine or alcohol, booze, it's your enemy. So, you've got to be prepared, and I talk about, just building up your sort of sober toolkit. It's just for planning for I'd like to say inevitable, because there's just going to be times where it just sneaks up on your shoulder, that freaking gremlin, thinking, shit, that moment of weakness. and they're only small moments, And how am I going to deal? Are you prepared for that moment?
They're very powerful moments, though, aren't they? They're kind of all consuming. I was just doing a Facebook Live in my Facebook group a moment ago. I can see a couple of questions coming through here. Hang on a moment. Right. I was just in a Facebook Live in my Facebook group a moment ago, and I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, let's not worry.
That little thing just comes so quickly, and it's so deep.
Yes. Right. And that I was saying that 18 months in, this idea is still my default setting very often, more often than what I would like. It's like, I could just make a call. You could just call it on. No one's going to know. Like, you don't like how you're feeling right now. Let's just get on it. And it's persistent. It's persistent. Now, I know that I'm not going to cave into it, right? But what and it's not that it bothers me because I know that I'm not going to cave into it, but at the same time, I am subjected to listening to this from time to time, more often than what I would like. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, you know? And so I think it's just being aware that we have trained ourselves over so many years that this is how we deal with things. When things don't go right, this is how we deal with it. When things do go right, this is how we celebrate it. You know, and of course it's going to be there. You know, just because we make a decision one day, okay, I'm never doing that again, doesn't mean that it's automatically instilled in our brain as our new default setting, you know? Oh, I've lost you, Mike. I've lost you. Hello, you're back. And so it takes work on our part to make sure that we do stay in the light. And I think you're absolutely right. You know, building up a toolkit of, okay, what am I going to do if this comes up? You know, who can I speak to? What can I put in place? You know, how can I prepare for it? If you want to put them questions up again, Steve, sorry, I'm getting to it right now. And we can talk about that. But I think, you know, for now, what I would love to know, Mike, is what has been your biggest learning in recovery? If that's not too big of a question, what has been, you know, one of the standout things that you have learned?
Yeah, it's a very wide question. Very, you know, the biggest thing that I've learned is that life can be pretty cool without alcohol, without drugs. And, you know, people talk about, oh, things will change beyond your wildest dreams and that, you know. It really is life changing, you know. It really is. It's wonderful. And so many things do change. You know, they talk about it in recovery, the cycles of recovery, you know, whether it be 5, 6, 7 years, you know, that first 3 months, your emotions, the first year, you know, I remember when I first gave up, I was going to conquer the world. I was going to do everything. It's like, you know, second year, I kind of found myself, and I found, you know, I got into my business, you know, and I invested in business coaching, and, you know, and that was wonderful because I now found out, you know, one of my triggers was boredom and knowing the how, you know. Suddenly I had my own businesses, but I'd so used to, in the city, I had people doing everything for me. Now I had, you know, my own independent business. I didn't know. So it was easier to go and drink on that because I didn't know, rather than reaching out. So there's just so many things I just learned about myself. You know, things that I just learned I enjoy, you know, walking. Who would have thought, you know, like next year I want to go and do a pilgrim's walk, you know, in Spain and thing. But
that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So it's a tough question. There's just so much about that I can take away.
Yeah.
And you learn who your friends are and who your friends aren't, and, you know, and I've just learned to, in the longer in sobriety and the more experience I get in this, you know, wellness about myself and those around me, I'm just a bit more accepting, a bit more humble, just a bit, you know, like a little jigsaw coming together, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I feel that way too, you know, like just things are starting to take shape. So just this week I qualified as a recovery coach,
yeah, I saw
professional,
that.
which was so awesome, you know, just such a blessing to be able to translate all of that chaos and carnage into something meaningful and purposeful and, you know, something pure and that's for the greater good. So that was really important for me. I want to close with one final question, Mike, because I know that you have got clients to see. Clients are waiting for your wisdom, so I'm not going to keep you.
Yeah,
but my final question.
When we crack on, it's a bit busy on Friday.
My final question. Hold on, I can see there's a question on the screen which I missed before. The supportive person has sacrificed so much. How does that person get back what they've lost? Why should anyone be supportive and sacrifice? That is a good question, Angela. Did you hear that, Mike? Can you see it on your screen?
Supportive person.
So this is about, you know, family members or friends that have supported us. How do they get back what they've lost, and why should they support us?
You know, I think that goes back to what we said earlier. You know, it's almost earning your trust back, and you've really got to be patient, because these things don't happen overnight, you know, and sometimes actions are better than words, you know. So I think these things do get some relationships, I think, are just you, and you've also just got to sit and learn to accept that some things might just be lost and irrecoverable, but don't dwell on that. because they might just surprise you and just suddenly, through actions and through your journey, things can quite easily turn around, for the better.
Agreed. Angela, wow, I can see that you're saying, the reason that you're asking is because you lost a house and capital and health wellness. And I understand that. And, each person's journey is their own. There's no reason why you should, nobody should anything, right? It's really a personal call to make. If this is somebody that you can see the good in, somebody who has genuinely lost their way and wants to rebuild their lives and takes the actions, the required actions, the dedication, and shows up in a way that aligns with that, and you want to support them, great. But equally, if you don't, that means nothing about you. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you've let somebody down. It doesn't mean anything. And in circumstances like yours, of course, it's going to be understandable that you might feel to walk away. And it's a judgment call, right? There's no should. And it's a lot for us as addicts. I mean, I speak for us both, Mike, to expect people to just be okay with what we've done and to forgive us. But essentially, we are human beings that have lost our way in life somewhere along the way. And when we commit to making those changes, I think it makes a very powerful statement that, that we are sorry and we are remorseful, and we're not going to carry guilt about that for the rest of our lives. However, we are going to use that to better the world. Right, Mike?
100%, couldn't have said it better. And these things take time, and they take a lot of work. But if you work at it, these things will come, that honesty, the integrity, that all comes, and it will come through and will show through you to other people. And that might be people you've wronged, and they might forgive you through your act, down the line. But you've also, again, what's happened has happened, and someone said they lost a house and that, I lost a business, I've accepted that and I've moved on because greater things are ahead of me. And I really try and focus on, I fast forward, I say to some people in recovery, and this might help some people, is like, imagine you're in a movie and you're in control of the movie, and you've got your remote control, you can either fast forward, you can rewind, or you can pause, like, what if, and I pause, what if I just stay where I'm at today, with cocaine or alcohol or something? How's it going to look? Fast forward, how's it going to look like? Pretty awful. And then you can also rewind, when you're in those moments of shit, I want to pick up something, just rewind how bad it was, you know what I mean? Or fast forward, life without addiction, how good is my life going to look like? Freaking hell, that's awesome.
It's hard to imagine though, isn't it, when you're in that place where you haven't actually yet done it? It's like, well, actually, who am I going to be? How am I going to be? What am I going to be? Like, it's a lot of unknowns, and it can be very daunting, but we are both here to tell you, it absolutely is possible, and you do figure this stuff out as you go along. So, Angela, I want to thank you for your question, and I want to thank you for being so vulnerable here with that, and thank you for congratulating us both. We really appreciate it. Mike, I want to say a massive thank you for coming on the show, for sharing your insight, your wisdom, and your energy. You're an amazing, incredible human. I will share all of your links inside of my YouTube upload when I do that later. Anyone wants to get in touch with myself or Mike, please do go ahead and do so. You can contact Crossroads, or you can contact us directly. We'll share our contact info so that you don't know where to find us. Okay. This has been Diary of a Cocaine Addict. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, there is always, always, always hope. You get to choose. All right. Much love. Over and out. Adios.